Silent moments often reveal more than noise ever can. And today, I, Shi Hengyi, want to speak to you about something most people overlook, a moment so small yet so powerful that it can shift the entire direction of your life. People think change requires force, time, or struggle, but change often enters through a tiny opening, a short spiritual doorway, a 21-minute window that appears only when the mind becomes clear enough to notice it. These 21 minutes are not tied to the ticking of a clock. They point to an inner space, a rare state the ancient Shaolin masters described as the gap between thoughts, a fleeting pause where confusion loosens its grip, where clarity rises like sunlight breaking through mist. In this space, the spirit becomes reachable, guidance becomes sharper, and rescue, spiritual, emotional, or personal, draws near. In this video, I will guide you through why these moments appear in your life, the hidden signs that show your spirit is entering this window, and how your next decision inside this opening determines whether you rise or remain stuck. You'll learn the subtle Shaolin principles that help you access these moments more often, the inner blocks that close this window before you even notice it, and the ancient discipline that allows a person to sense divine intervention before it arrives. There is depth here, and mystery, and truth that many seekers overlook. So stay with me until the end. These teachings are not common, and understanding them may become your turning point. Once the 21-minute window opens, your spirit will know. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. If the path of self-mastery calls to you, subscribe and walk this journey with us. There is a moment in every seeker's life when the world feels strangely quiet, as if something unseen is drawing closer. Call this the subtle breath before the change, a gentle pull that arrives long before the rescue itself. It rarely announces its presence. It does not shake mountains or split the sky. Instead, it settles softly inside the chest, like a fingertip touching the surface of still water. Long before divine help reaches you, this whisper appears. Sometimes it arrives as hesitation, a sudden pause in the middle of your day, a feeling that tells you to slow down, to breathe, to observe. Other times, it comes as a strange clarity, small, fleeting, yet undeniable. You may not understand what the message is, but you sense that something sacred is trying to get your attention. In the Shaolin tradition, we are taught that life speaks long before it corrects. The universe never rescues the distracted mind first. It rescues the attentive one. And so the call is quiet. It must be quiet. Only a present mind can hear it. There were moments in my own training when the most important teachings were delivered, not through words but through silence. My master would walk past me, say nothing, and yet I knew, pay attention. Something is shifting. That same silence appears in your life too. A nudge, a pull, a sense that you must return to yourself. Mindfulness reveals this truth. The whisper before the rescue is not random. It is a signal from a higher order, reaching you through instinct, intuition, or sudden awareness. When you hear the inner voice saying, "Pause, listen, return," it is because something ahead is preparing to unfold. The question is never whether the call is given. The question is whether you are calm enough to feel it. There is a teaching in the old Shaolin halls that many overlook, yet it holds the key to every inner breakthrough. The masters called it Wu Xin, the empty heart mind. Not emptiness in the sense of lacking emotion or thought, but emptiness as clarity, as openness, as a mind unburdened by the noise that blinds the spirit. In training, students often believed strength came from more effort, more tension, more pushing, but the elder monks would simply smile. They knew the truth. Real power arises when the inner world becomes spacious, when the heart is no longer crowded with fear, judgment, or past stories. It becomes light enough to receive guidance. There was a young student who once approached his master with frustration. His progress had stalled, and his mind felt heavy. The master handed him a bowl already filled to the brim and asked him to pour tea into it. The tea spilled over, flooding the floor. The master said quietly, "When the bowl is full, nothing new can enter." That single moment revealed the essence of Wu Xin. This principle extends far beyond the training hall. Whenever the mind carries too many worries, too many opinions, too many imagined outcomes, it becomes impossible to hear the subtle directions life offers. The call from a higher source may come, but it cannot be received. Noise becomes a wall. Inner clutter becomes a blockage. Wu Xin teaches that rescue, clarity, and divine instruction arrive not when life becomes easier, but when the heart becomes lighter. The empty mind is not passive. It is awake. Alert, ready, it listens without distortion. When the inner space opens, truth enters naturally, guidance flows effortlessly, and what once felt impossible becomes simple. In this emptiness, the next step becomes clear, not because the world changed, but because you did. There is an old Shaolin saying, "A closed fist cannot receive a blessing." This was more than a lesson about posture or technique. It was a teaching about the hidden weight people carry inside, the emotional armor that becomes heavier than steel. Before help can reach you, before clarity can find you, something within must be released. There was once a student who trained fiercely but progressed slowly. His master noticed the tension in his shoulders, the stiffness in his breath, the way his eyes held stories of old disappointments. One day, the master placed 2 heavy stones in the student's hands and told him to walk the courtyard. The weight grew unbearable. When the master finally allowed him to drop the stones, the relief was immediate. Lightness flooded his body. The master said, "This is what your spirit feels when you let go." Grudges, fear, bitterness, and constant overthinking are stones of the heart. They drain strength without offering anything in return. They tighten your inner world until there is no room for guidance, no space for divine intervention, no opening through which help can enter. Letting go is not weakness. It is mastery. Shaolin discipline teaches that release is an active choice, not a passive surrender. It is the courage to unclench what has been held too tightly. It is the willingness to stop replaying old stories. It is the humility to admit that carrying emotional weight does not protect you, it traps you. When you set these burdens down, something remarkable happens. The breath deepens, the mind quiets, the heart expands, and in that space, help arrives, not because it was missing, but because you finally became open enough to receive it. The release is not preparation for the answer. The release is the answer. There is a quiet challenge that life places before every seeker, yet very few recognize it. It is the test of stillness, the ability to remain fully present, even for a short span of time. In the ancient Shaolin tradition, this was considered one of the highest forms of strength, far greater than physical power or endurance. To be still for 21 minutes may sound simple, but for the restless mind, it is a mountain. Monks trained for years to reach this state, not to escape the world, but to see it more clearly. During meditation sessions in the training hall, the air would grow so silent that even the faintest breath felt like a drumbeat. The body stayed rooted, but the true training occurred inside, calming the storms, watching thoughts rise and fall without chasing them, allowing the mind to settle like dust in a sunbeam. There was once a young disciple who struggled with this discipline. His thoughts raced like wild horses, pulling him in every direction. One evening, his master asked him to sit facing a candle flame. "Do not control your mind," the master said. "Just witness everything." At first, the disciple became frustrated, but with time, something shifted. Thoughts lost their sharpness. The flame became steady, and for a brief moment, he tasted stillness. That moment changed him more than years of physical training. Stillness is not emptiness. It is presence. It is a doorway. When you become still, even for a small window, you step out of fear, out of noise, out of the illusions that cloud judgment. In that clarity, divine guidance enters effortlessly. Rescue becomes possible because the mind is no longer resisting it. The test of 21 minutes is not about endurance. It is about awakening the strength to stop running and finally listen. There is a quiet truth woven into many ancient teachings. When divine help reaches you, it rarely arrives as a fully formed miracle. More often, it appears as direction, a gentle instruction, a nudge, a shift that guides you toward the outcome rather than delivering it into your hands. Many overlook this because they wait for a dramatic sign, not realizing that guidance is the miracle itself. In the old Shaolin temples, students often asked for solutions to their struggles. They expected techniques, shortcuts, or powerful secrets, but the masters would instead offer a small correction in posture, a reminder to breathe, or a single sentence to contemplate. These were not solutions in the way the students imagined. They were instructions, subtle, precise, and transformative. Only later did the students understand that following these small directions reshaped everything. Divine rescue works in the same way. Sometimes it comes as a sudden insight, a thought that clears confusion like wind-sweeping fog. Other times it arrives as a moment of clarity, a realization that was always within you, but finally surfaces. It may appear as a shift in feeling, where fear softens or determination awakens, and often it is simply a push to act differently, to choose a path you once avoided or release a habit that no longer serves you. Mindfulness teaches the sensitivity required to recognize these signals. A quiet mind notices what a distracted mind misses. When awareness deepens, the smallest instruction feels unmistakable, like a thread tugging gently at the heart, leading you toward the next right step. The help you seek may already be present, not as a dramatic rescue, but as guidance waiting for your attention. The real question is whether you can slow down enough, quiet your thoughts enough, and open your awareness enough to hear it. There is a moment in every journey when clarity breaks through, clean, sharp, and unmistakable. It may come after days of confusion or in the middle of an ordinary task. But when it arrives, ancient teachings say there is only one response: move. This is the law of immediate obedience, a principle valued deeply in Shaolin discipline and echoed in spiritual traditions around the world. In the training halls, hesitation was considered a silent opponent. A student who delayed even a breath could miss the lesson, the timing, or the opportunity. When a master offered instruction, the true disciple acted at once, not out of fear but out of trust. Trust in the wisdom given, trust in the path unfolding, trust that the moment of clarity is sacred and must be honored. There is a story of a disciple who struggled with hesitation. Whenever insight struck him, he doubted it, questioned it, or postponed action until the moment passed. His master watched quietly. One day during meditation, the master struck a gong and said, "Do you hear it?" The disciple nodded. The master replied, "In the time you take to think, the sound disappears." This was the teaching: clarity has a lifespan. Act before it fades. Divine direction follows the same rhythm. When guidance comes through intuition, conviction, or sudden understanding, it carries energy, momentum, a spiritual push. Those who are ready respond without delay. This readiness is not impulsive, it is disciplined. It comes from a mind trained to recognize truth the moment it appears. The 21 minutes symbolize this narrow opening, a short window where obedience matters most. Not blind obedience, but alignment, the willingness to step forward the moment your spirit says, "This is the way." In those brief moments, destiny shifts, paths open, and rescue unfolds, not through waiting, but through action taken in perfect timing. There is a quiet power in a life where mind, heart, and action flow together. The Shaolin masters called this internal harmony, a state where the spirit is neither scattered nor resisting. It is not achieved through force, but through careful cultivation, patience, and the daily practice of aligning thought, intention, and movement. In this state, even the subtlest signal from the universe becomes unmistakable. Guidance finds the seeker as easily as water finding a channel. In the monastery, students often struggled with distraction. Some trained the body but ignored the mind. Others meditated endlessly but neglected action. The masters observed, knowing that rescue, clarity, and transformation only come when all aspects of the self are moving in concert. One day, a master asked a young student to carry a bowl of water through the courtyard. If the bowl tipped, the water spilled. The exercise seemed simple, yet it required perfect harmony between breath, gaze, and step. When the student finally succeeded, he understood alignment transforms ordinary effort into something effortless and precise. Spiritual alignment works the same way. When thoughts, intentions, and actions are misaligned, opportunities pass unnoticed, signs go unheeded, and help cannot enter fully. But when the inner world is in tune, guidance flows naturally. A glance, a word, or even a fleeting intuition carries profound weight. The mind recognizes it, the heart trusts it, and the body moves without hesitation. Becoming easy to guide does not mean losing control or surrendering discernment. It means cultivating a self so disciplined and clear that when the right path appears, no internal conflict blocks it. The small window opens and everything needed to step forward falls into place. In internal harmony, the world speaks and the seeker listens, fully without distraction and ready to follow. There is a hidden language in the world that most people cannot hear. It speaks not in words, not in sound, but in silence. The Shaolin masters taught that noise blinds the spirit, filling the mind with distraction and confusion. Only in stillness does the subtle truth reveal itself. In the quiet, the patterns of life emerge, guidance becomes clear, and the answers you have been seeking appear without force. In the training halls, silence was both a teacher and a test. A novice might enter the meditation room expecting dramatic insight, only to sit for hours with nothing but the rhythm of breath and the faint echo of footsteps. At first, this emptiness felt like failure, but over time, the stillness began to speak. The breath taught patience, the calm taught attention. The absence of distraction revealed what the eye could not see and what the mind had been too restless to notice. Divine messages often arrive the same way. They do not announce themselves with thunder or spectacle. They appear as a sudden sense of clarity, a gentle intuition, a moment when the heart knows the truth before the mind can fully understand it. Every small sign, an instinctive pause, a thought that rises and settles, a feeling of ease carries instruction. These signals require silence to be recognized. Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where insight grows, where wisdom gathers, where guidance becomes possible. The Shaolin understood that the world's answers are always present, but they are hidden behind the clamor of thought and emotion. By learning to sit in stillness, to breathe without rushing, and to witness without interference, the seeker opens the door for life's quiet truths to enter. In this silence, what once seemed uncertain becomes undeniable, and the path forward is illuminated. There comes a moment when preparation meets opportunity, and the spirit is tested like never before. The 21-minute window is not just a measure of time, it is a sacred threshold, a fleeting opening where the mind, heart, and soul must act in harmony. Those who hesitate may feel the pull, sense the clarity, even hear the call, but still remain unmoved. True mastery, the Shaolin teach, is measured not by knowledge, but by action in the precise moment it matters most. In the monastery, students were often presented with sudden challenges, tasks that required immediate response. One young disciple, after years of training in stillness, clarity, and release, was asked to step onto a high platform to retrieve an object that seemed ordinary. The fear was real, yet the master did not intervene. The window was open. The student's choice would determine the lesson. Trembling, he stepped forward. Each movement was conscious, disciplined, and in alignment with what he had cultivated over years. That single act transformed him. Divine guidance works in the same way. The insight, the intuition, the subtle signs all prepare you for a choice. A shift in behavior, a letting go, a step of faith. These are the actions that unlock what has been waiting. The mind may doubt, the heart may waver, and the body may resist, yet the window requires movement. Waiting too long, hesitating, or questioning the timing closes the door. The 21-minute window is both mercy and challenge. It tests the courage to follow the call, the discipline to act without delay, and the surrender to move in alignment with higher guidance. Saying yes is not passive. It is a deliberate choice. It is the moment when preparation, clarity, and courage converge. In that choice, the rescue that has been near all along finally arrives, not because it was withheld, but because the seeker was ready to step into it. There is a profound strength in letting go, a strength often hidden behind resistance, pride, and the desire to control. Shaolin masters teach that true power is not in clinging but in yielding. To surrender does not mean weakness. It is the courage to release what no longer serves, to step away from patterns, fears, and identities that confine the spirit. Only then can transformation occur. In the training halls, students were sometimes asked to perform feats that required them to release their usual ways of thinking and moving. One disciple struggled for weeks to master a complex form. Every attempt relied on force, will, and rigid control. His movements were precise but lacked flow. Finally, the master said, "Stop trying to hold it. Let it move through you." The student let go of control. In that moment, his movements became effortless, precise, and alive. What had been impossible under tension became natural in surrender. Life mirrors this principle. The old self, the one bound by fear, doubt, or the need to prove worth, cannot receive rescue. Transformation requires stepping into a higher identity, a version of yourself aligned with purpose, clarity, and openness. When the chosen ones surrender the limitations of the past, they become vessels for guidance, insight, and divine support. Surrender is an act of trust. It is the willingness to allow life, discipline, and higher wisdom to shape the path, rather than insisting on bending the world to personal desire. The moment of yielding is not passive resignation, it is active alignment. It is saying yes to the flow of life, to the unseen hands guiding, and to the higher self that awaits emergence. In this release, resistance dissolves, strength becomes effortless, and the door to transformation swings wide open, allowing the chosen ones to step fully into the power they were always meant to embody. There is a moment in the path of mastery when all preparation, surrender, and patience converge, a moment so subtle yet so profound that it cannot be forced or predicted. This is the divine lift, the instant when guidance becomes palpable and the rescue that has been near all along finally arrives. It is quiet, almost imperceptible, yet unmistakable to those who have cultivated awareness. In the Shaolin tradition, students who had mastered stillness and discipline often described this experience as a sudden lightness, a weight they had carried for years. Doubt, fear, resistance seemed to evaporate. Tasks that once felt impossible flowed with ease. A simple breath could feel like renewal, and each movement carried clarity. The masters taught that this lift is not the result of effort alone, but of alignment, the harmony of mind, heart, and spirit. There was a young disciple who, after months of rigorous training and meditation, reached a breaking point. Exhausted, he sat in silence, fully surrendering his will and anxieties. In that quiet, he felt a subtle shift. A sense of peace settled in his chest, a strength surged through his limbs, and an unseen door seemed to open before him. The change was not dramatic, yet everything had transformed. He realized that the journey had prepared him for this moment. All resistance had been stripped away, leaving only readiness to receive. Divine lift often manifests in small yet undeniable ways: sudden clarity, effortless insight, a feeling of release, or a quiet surge of confidence. It is the universe, life, or God stepping in, guiding without force, restoring balance, and opening paths that were previously hidden. This is the essence of rescue, not a miracle imposed from outside, but a gentle, precise alignment where the seeker becomes fully capable of receiving what was always within reach. In this stillness, this surrender, and this clarity, the lift arrives, and the chosen ones are transformed. The path of awakening is rarely loud or dramatic. Divine rescue is near, quietly waiting for a mind that is still, a heart that is open, and a spirit ready to receive. The 21 minutes remind us that clarity often arrives in brief, sacred windows, moments where awareness and readiness are everything. When the mind is silenced, when burdens are released, and when discipline guides action, the signals that were once subtle become unmistakable. Shaolin teachings of stillness, mindfulness, and self-mastery show that true power lies not in force, but in alignment, allowing guidance, insight, and transformation to flow naturally. Take these lessons into your day. Notice the whispers in your heart. Release what holds you back. Step forward with calm courage when clarity calls. Even the smallest acts of presence and surrender create space for transformation to enter. Peace is not a distant goal. It is found in the quiet readiness of a prepared mind and a willing heart. Let this awareness guide you, and let each moment become a doorway to the help and wisdom already near. If this message resonates, join our journey. Subscribe to Shaolin Soulfire and continue walking the path of self-mastery, presence, and inner awakening. Your spirit is ready. Now let it listen.